them.
The stage will open with an opening speech by each of the delegates. The stage will open with all these opening speech because all these opening speech will provide an overview of the different countries. So let's begin with the opening speeches. These will present a brief overview of not just their countries but their policies for the future. So let's begin. We're gonna go by a sequence of chits and then randomly decide which country is gonna come first. The first chairperson, fellow delegates, and most esteemed guests. The invention of nuclear technology has played an important role in the development as well as making the countries worldwide stronger. It has strengthened the world and even more. It is also important to maintain the usage of nuclear weapons in a positive way. It has proved to be beneficial for all the countries, even including Russia. Russia strongly believes in change and willing to take steps for the development but also keeping its rightful place as main priority. Nuclear proliferation is a big step as nuclear proliferation.
Hello.
Nuclear nuclear proliferation is a major part.
यहाँ पे ना हाथ
हेलो
करो,
हेलो
ये क्रॉस
आ
करना
रही आवाज
ओके करना
हेलो हेलो
बंद हो जाए ठीक है और ऐसे सुनिए किसी बच्चे को फोकस करो तो जो ना ठीक है
हेलो 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 हेलो
करेंगे
जो मैं मंगवा रहा हूँ स्टिक मंगवा
हेलो
रहा हूँ उस पर रखवा के डायरेक्टली हो जाएगा मैं मंगवा रहा हूँ उसके लिए बच्चों को तो ये फोन किया जाएगा इस पर घंटा 2 घंटा पकड़ना
तब तक पकड़े रखेंगे
तो मैं बात कर
इससे
बच्चों को बोल रहा हूँ सिर्फ स्टिक पे
है
स्टिक अगर हो जाएगा ट्राईपॉड अगर हो जाए तो फिर ठीक है
भेजो ना पर तब तक तो इस पे चलेगा ना
हाँ तब तो इसी पे चलाना पड़ेगा
Nuclear proliferation is a major part as it spread the nuclear technology all over the world. The countries who are not aware of nuclear technology will have great benefit by this step. Today, Russia is willing to spread this major factor of development throughout the world. Russian Federation is the largest country in the world. Russia has struggled its effort to build a democratic political system and economic control of the Communist Party. As the early of 2019, the Federation of American Scientists estimated that Russia possesses nuclear arsenal that includes 6,490 warheads, including 1,070 strategic and 1,820 non-strategic, including 2,000 warhead that has been retired. The Russian Federation is also known to possess or have possessed three types of weapons that includes nuclear weapons, biological weapons, and chemical weapons. As 2022, Russia possessed an estimated 5,977 stockpile of the largest number in the world. Thank you. Honorable Chairpersons and esteemed delegates, nuclear disarmament and non-proliferation are not utopian ideals. They are critical for global peace and security. With these lines stated by Ban Ki-moon, the delegation of People's Republic of China would like to state that despite possessing nuclear weapons since 1964, China has far smaller nuclear arsenal than that of United States and Russia. China, moreover, has long maintained no first use policy. China's approach to nuclear weapon is thus distinct among nuclear weapon states. China supports association of Southeast Asian nations and is ready to implement many treaties as soon as possible. China is going to implement many projects like Kinshan and Daya Bay project. China has always pursued the policy of giving first priority to safety and quality in its nuclear power development. The purpose of China's nuclear power program is to utilize atomic energy for peaceful applications and to bring its benefit to the people. The People's Republic of China has already announced that the Guangdong Nuclear Power Station will be priority project that would be voluntarily offered to IAEA for safeguards. Honorable Committee, China sincerely hopes to exchange experience in the peaceful application of nuclear energy with other countries around the world.
China asserts that the prevention of nuclear proliferation is not an end itself. It is a major step towards the complete prohibition and thorough destruction of nuclear weapons. Nuclear disarmament and non-proliferation should be complementary to each other. To attain lofty goals of complete prohibition and thorough destruction of nuclear weapons, China believes that the countries with the largest nuclear arsenals should fulfill their special obligations by halting the testing, production, and deployment of nuclear weapons outside their country. With the view of bringing international peace and security and stability, China has decided to accede the treaty. China always supported the objectives mentioned in the NPT, namely prevention of nuclear proliferation, nuclear disarmament, and international cooperation of peaceful use in nuclear energy, and believes that these three objectives are complementary to each other. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Delegate. Can we move to the other team?
Good morning, Honorable Chair, fellow delegates, and most esteemed guests. Read the delegate of India. India is the one of the only 5 countries that did not sign the NPT. And thus becoming a part of list includes Israel, North Korea, South Sudan, and Pakistan. This might make New Delhi seem like an outliner, but persuading, coercing, and sworn states to be part of NPT, and was a Herculean effort for US policymakers with no clear guarantee of success. This is because the Grand Bargain Treaty, enshrined in the Articles 2 or 4, requires country to give up any present or future plans to build nuclear weapons in return for access to peaceful uses of nuclear energy. India continues to attach high priority and to remains committed to universal and discriminatory and verifiable nuclear disarmament. India, as far as the treaty on the prohibition of nuclear weapons, India never negotiates the consistency, made it clear, will not become a part of a party. And India believes that this treaty does not constitute or contribute the development of customary international law and does not standard the norms.
India developed nuclear weapons staying outside the Non-Nuclear Proliferation Treaty or NPT. As of March 2022, India is estimated to have an arsenal of 160 nuclear warheads. India's warheads have plutonium cores and are stored away from their delivery systems. India has refrained from signing the treaties such as Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty and NPT because of the blatant unfairness was against our interests. It also feels that they are discriminatory because non-nuclear weapon states aren't allowed to have nuclear weapons, while nuclear weapon states have no obligation to give them up. According to the basic principle of the nuclear doctrine is the no first use. According to this policy, India's nuclear weapons will only be used in retaliation against a nuclear attack on Indian territory or on Indian forces anywhere.
Thank you so much, Delegate of India. Kindly we move to the next country, and that is North Korea.
Nuclear power greatly benefits the human society, but at the same time potentially resulting in the higher consequences. Good morning, honored chairperson and the fellow delegates and the distinguished guests. The delegates of DPRK are honored to be a part of this conference and get a chance to find a suitable solution for the nuclear proliferation. North Korea has a set of approximately 30 to 40 weapons. First nuclear weapon test was occurred on October 9, 2006. North Korea is not a part of NPT. The reason for nation withdrawal was because we wanted to acquire nuclear weapons to protect our national security against other nuclear states.
North Korea proudly states policy that nuclear weapons will never be abused or used as a mean for primitive strikes. But if there is an attempt to have a recourse to military force against us, we will use our most powerful offensive strength in advance to punish them. For us, our nation comes first, and we will do anything and everything to protect it. However, Honorable Committee, we hope that we find an alternative for nuclear proliferation and no country stays in the threat of the power holders. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Kindly we move to the next country, and that is Israel.
Honorable Chair, fellow delegates, distinguished guests, Benjamin Netanyahu once said, Peace is purchased from strength. It's not purchased from weakness or unilateral threats. It's an honor to represent State of Israel. Israel wishes to tackle many significant issues through debate here. Although Israel has not adhered to the NPT, it has kept the matter under constant review since the treaty entered into force. It approached the question of adherence from the perspective of the conditions prevailing in the Middle East, their bearing on and relationship to the treaty and the implications for its peculiar political and security situation. The intentions and efforts of our neighbors in the nuclear field did not enhance confidence that some Arab states which adhere to the NPT would indeed abide by their obligations under the treaty. Israel maintains that unilateral acts such as subscribing to the NPT or accepting full scope safeguards could not by themselves be considered a guarantee against the proliferation of nuclear weapons in the Middle East. A lasting and effective non-proliferation regime should be achieved through a NWFZ, namely Nuclear Weapon Free War Zone, which is a regional arrangement based on a system of mutually binding agreement and reciprocal commitments of the states of the region. The State of Israel believes in never again doctrine. That is that Jews would never again find themselves unable to defend themselves, evolving a defense policy to offset the asymmetry of Israel's demographic inferiority and geographically small size as compared to the surrounding hostile Arab population, seeking accommodations with neighbors when available and neutralizing regional existential threats. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Let's move to the other country, and that is Pakistan.
Ours is the world of nuclear giants and ethical impacts. We know more about war than we know about peace, more about killing than we know about living. We have grasped the mystery of atom and have rejected the Sermon on the Mount. Good morning, Honorable Chairpersons, all the delegates, and the audience. I am representing the Islamic Republic of Pakistan. IEEA, International Atomic Energy Agency, established in 1957, seeks to promote peaceful use of nuclear energy. It is independent, but still it reports to UN General Assembly and Security Council. Under this agency, NPT, Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, was signed in 1970, which aims to prevent spread of nuclear weapons and promotes its peaceful use. The delegation of Pakistan would like to mention that the Islamic Republic of Pakistan became the sixth nuclear power of the world by the efforts of Abdul Qadir Khan and various workers. The delegation of Pakistan is proud of its long-standing and consistent contributions in UN peacekeeping spanning over last 6 decades. Since 1967, when NPT was signed and opened for signature, Pakistan has been maintaining that it would sign NPT if India joins it as a non-nuclear weapon state. Otherwise, it will join as a recognized nuclear weapon state. Pakistan cannot give nuclear weapons because if it has a conventional imbalance with India, then obviously its reliance on nuclear weapon increases. Honorable Chairpersons and all the respected delegates, the failure of NPT since last 50 years has really saddened Pakistan, and the delegation of Pakistan is recommending that amendment should be made in NPT's policies to make it more effective, authorized and independent so that each and every country of the world joins it.
Pakistan developed nuclear weapons outside of the NPT and is believed to possess an arsenal of about 165 nuclear warheads. As of 2022, Pakistan is expanding its nuclear arsenal faster than any other country and developing new delivery systems, including development of the sea-based leg of its nuclear triad and speculated development of an ICBM. Pakistan's nuclear program has largely been driven by its regional rivalry with India since India conducted its first nuclear test in 1974. Numerous Pakistani entities and individuals have been sanctioned by the US for non-proliferation violations, though many are still believed to be actively exporting nuclear weapons technologies. Though Pakistani and US officials have repeatedly stated that Pakistan's nuclear assets are secure. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate.
The next delegate of Germany, please start.
The safest nuclear power or energy policy is to realize zero nuclear power. Good morning everyone present here, fellow delegates, honorable chairperson and distinguished guests. Today we are here as the representatives of Germany. Thank you, Chairperson, for giving us the honor to represent our country, Germany. In spite of many positive developments over the past few decades, we unfortunately need to diagnose a lot of problems. One of them being the spread of the nuclear weapons. This overall development could yet go into reverse as international security currently seems to be at a turning point. Tensions rise virtually in every corner of the world. Long-running deadly conflicts remains deadlocked, and in such a situation, nuclear proliferation causes a threat to the world's security and existence. Germany, like the overwhelming majority of states, shares the goal of a world free of nuclear weapons. Germany is fully committed to a world without nuclear deterrence and advocates concrete steps towards nuclear disarmament. We are convinced that nuclear disarmament contributes essentially to our security, and we keep on reminding nuclear weapon states of their duty to initiate further reduction of their respective nuclear arsenals.
Although Germany has the technical capability to produce weapons of mass destruction, since the consequences of World War II and the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Germany has generally refrained from producing these weapons. Germany is amongst the powers that possess the ability to create nuclear weapons, but has agreed to not to do so under the Treaty of Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons. Germany fully supports the decision of the special session of the Conference of the State Parties to the Chemical Weapons Concentration. This decision has sent a clear message that whoever commits a crime against the humanity by resorting to nuclear weapons must be held accountable. Germany stands ready to support the full implementation of this decision and to help fight impunity. Let us not forget what we do or fail to do will echo for generations to come. Non-proliferation and disarmament are not just nice to have but fundamental for our future. We should constantly remind ourselves of what is at stake if we do not preserve and strengthen the existing arms control architecture, including its norms against the proliferation of weapons of mass destruction. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Honorable Chair and fellow delegates. Today we are representing USA. We are blessed with the opportunity to stand for something, for liberty and freedom. And these are the things worth fighting for, worth devoting our lives to. The quote by Ronald Reagan, the 40th President of USA. USA, officially called United States of America, abbreviated as US or USA, by name America, a federal of 50 states in North of America. The capital of America is Washington, which is coextensive with the District of Columbia, and it became a federal capital in 1790. From the first flight of the Wright brothers to the steps on moon by Armstrong, from the polio vaccinations to the high-class technology, US has left a legacy, its name in history. And when it comes to nuclear technology, US was the one to develop the nuclear technology under the Manhattan Project. After all this was a need to stop nuclear proliferation. To achieve this, IAEA, International Atomic Energy Agency, introduced NPT. NPT stands for Nuclear Proliferation Treaty or Non-Proliferation Treaty. Now, the Non-Proliferation Treaty, the main aim of it was the peaceful use of nuclear weapons and the complete disarmament. Now, we will have a brief summary about the background and the country's policy. Background. Nuclear weapons are the most dangerous weapons on the earth. One can destroy whole city by the killing of millions and jeopardizing the natural environment and the lives of future generations through the catastrophic effects. Although nuclear weapons have only been used in twice by the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945, disarmament is the best protection against such danger, but achieving the goal has been tremendously difficult challenge. So let's talk about the country's policy. US nuclear weapons policy states that the United States would only consider the US nuclear weapons in extreme circumstances to defend the vital interest of United States or its allies and its partners. The United States has long pledged to refrain from the using of nuclear weapons against the most non-nuclear weapon states, but has neither ruled out their first use in the case or nor specified the circumstances under which would use them.
To the Honorable Committee, the consideration points from our side could be criticism on NPT, solution by the various countries, and the other signed NPT.
Let's move to the next theme. Delegate of France.
Good morning. Among all the methods, non-violence is the most successful, and I strongly believe. Good morning. Among all the methods, non-violence is the most successful, and I strongly believe that only non-violence can set the true mood of peace and harmony among the nuclear nations. Honorable Chairperson, esteemed delegates, and my fellow guests, we are standing in front of you, honorably representing French position regarding the status of nuclear proliferation. Nuclear proliferation is the spread of nuclear material, fissile material, and weapon-applicable nuclear technology. Proliferation has been abolished by many nations, including France, because more nuclear weapons will increase the possibility of nuclear warfare. France is one of the 5 nuclear weapon states recognized under the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. France actively combats proliferation. France has taken major steps for nuclear disarmament.
Since the end of Cold War, France has reduced its stockpile of nuclear weapons from approx high of 540 to its current arsenal around 200. The level of our nuclear arsenal is now ruled by the concept of strict sufficiency. France always supported nuclear proliferation treaty. France and UK have been the first weapon states to sign in 1996 and ratify in 1998 the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty. France maintains a long-standing position in support of non-proliferation activities as they halted Nuclear Cooperation Agreement 1957 with Israel in 1960. France claims that its nuclear policy is strictly defensive and that the use of nuclear weapons would only be conceivable in extreme circumstances of legitimate self-defense, and the nuclear deterrence protects France from state-led aggression against its vital interests of whatever origin and in whatever form, including terrorism. Although, as a nuclear weapon state, France has already achieved quite a lot in order to encourage disarmament. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Firstly, I would like to thank the chairperson for giving us the opportunity to represent the country, Spain. Spain, a country located in the extreme southern western Europe, basically, it occupies about the 85% of the Iberian Peninsula, which it shares with the smaller neighbor, Portugal. The economy of Spain is highly developed. It is the world's 14th largest economy and 5th largest in the Europe. The Spain's Human Development Index recently is 0.904%, which puts the country in the very high human development category, positioning it at the 25th out of 189 countries and territories. Similarly, Spain has been ranked by the World Press Freedom on the 29th place and the Happiness Index of Spain ranks as the 49th happiest country in the world.
Spain is the part of a NATO alliances. It shared its boundary with Portugal and the France. Spain have signed the Treaty of NPT on 1st July 1968 in New York, USA. The basic goal of this NPT treaty is to achieve nuclear disarmament. Similarly, on November 2020, a public poll was conducted by your government in which 89% of Spaniards believed that their country should join the treaty, with just 4% opposing it to join. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Now let's move to the other country, and that is United Kingdom.
If you go on with the nuclear arms race, all you are going to do is make the rubble bounce. A quote by Winston Churchill, former Prime Minister of United Kingdom. Good morning, Honorable Chair, respected guests, and esteemed delegates. We are the delegates of United Kingdom. The United Kingdom remains a major force in international diplomacy, one of the world's leading military power, and the second highest international development donor, and has a huge global culture influence. Sir Isaac Newton, Charles Darwin, Alexander Fleming, Stephen Hawking are the greatest British scientists who played a crucial role in the field of science. Not only in the field of science, but UK is also pioneer of nuclear technology, which have been a part of our daily life since 60 years, and our country remains a world-leading enterprise. Today, nuclear energy generates 1/5 of our country's electricity, and UK is pursuing both large-scale new nuclear projects as well as advanced nuclear technology with euro 525 million to be invested in the nuclear sector. We believe in the three pillars that are mentioned in the NPT: disarmament, the proliferation, and the peaceful uses.
UK is committed to the long-term goal of a world without the nuclear weapons. Within the Non-Proliferation Treaty or NPT, UK is working to preserve and strengthen the effective arms control. The UK has led an example of nuclear disarmament. Since the end of Cold War, UK has dismantled the tactical and air-delivered nuclear weapons. In 1952, became the third country after the US and USSR to develop and test nuclear weapons, and is one of the 5 nuclear states under the Treaty of NPT of nuclear weapons. Honorable Chairperson and judges, the United Kingdom continues to believe that the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty remains essential to the maintenance of a safe and secure world. We look forward that all the countries also contribute global peace. Thank you.
Thank you so much, all the delegates, for imparting this knowledge about the overview of your separate countries. Now we move into the next round, that will be the round for agenda. And I would like any country to propose agenda. Israel, you propose an agenda?
Request to raise a motion on the agenda establishment of nuclear-free zones in the world.
Countries in the favor of motion, kindly raise your placards. Since the agenda clearly passes the motion, we will go with the agenda establishment of nuclear-free zones in the world. And we will commence from Israel as the first team. In this round, the question round will be for 3 to 4 minutes. And if a person speaks about 2 minutes, then their extra time will be extended for the answers. Thank you. The State of Israel believes that a lasting and effective non-proliferation regime should be achieved through a nuclear weapon-free zone, that is NWFZ. The guiding idea can be derived from international legal instruments and practices, the model of the Tellaticolor Treaty for Latin America. To create a worldwide NWS, we should first focus on establishing NWFZ in the Middle East. The initiative for the establishment of the zone should originate with the states in the region. The states should carry out the negotiations directly among themselves. The negotiations should address the geographical limits of the zone, the modalities for its establishment, the obligations and rights of the contracting parties, the machinery and procedures for ensuring effective complements and any other means for averting proliferation as agreed by the negotiating states. Israel believes that the implementation of such a scheme could be an important confidence-building measure, could help reduce tension between the states of the region and improve the prospects for the progress in other areas. Israel maintains that the emergence of the nuclear age influenced the nature of international relations, since atomic power increased the destructive capacity of weaponry and nuclear powers were divided by differences of views and conflicting interests.
The novel destructive power of nuclear weapons contributed to a process in which the classical balance of power system was replaced by a balance of terror based on nuclear deterrence. This new element has been by itself a source of instability in the international system, since it involves uncertainties such as miscalculations, rapid changes in nuclear weapons technologies and systems, the invention and production of new weapon systems, the possibility of retaliatory action in the event of an accidental nuclear explosion, the possible triggering of a nuclear war by accidental or other means. Thank you.
Let's move to the next team. North Korea, kindly present your views on the agenda.
Technology is available and only requires the necessary industrial and technological base to produce fissile material. Even comparatively, backward nations like Pakistan and North Korea have accomplished this. So now, that the nuclear power have been out in the front of whole world. Getting rid of them is vastly difficult. Despite treaties and goodwill, there will always be the lurking fear that one nation or another is holding out or are secretly building. The nuclear potential is one that keeps small nations from being invaded by the neighbors. For major nations, it might be said that the presence of nuclear threat has kept us from large-scale military conflicts from many years now. Without that threat, we would go back to the World War II era.
The next country that has been chosen on random is USSR. Russia. Russia, kindly move with your points.
Today, Russia is against the complete abolition of nuclear technology and aim to maintain the spread of nuclear weapons. World without nuclear technology will not reach the level of development fastly as it doing now. Use of nuclear technology promotes strategic stability and prevents large-scale wars, but similarly allows for more low-intensity conflicts. Nuclear technology has played an important role in strengthening the world. Peace environment can still be maintained by the rightful use of nuclear weapons. Nuclear disarmament is not the only way to prevent space, but can also be achieved in the presence of nuclear technology. The possession of nuclear weapon has kept the major world power from coming to war since 1955 out of fear of what might happen. The knowledge of nuclear weapon cannot be removed. Nuclear weapons are used to increase the nation power and status. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Delegate. Now we move on to USA for the next point of agenda.
USA has historically supported the nuclear war-free zones and said that if properly implemented and crafted, it can lead to stability, peaceful security, and they can also reinforce the NPT and the worldwide nuclear non-proliferation regime. Even USA has signed all the 4 treaties which were related to nuclear war-free zones, and the Treaty of Bangkok, the issues on it are still going on. USA make their weapons for safeguards our country. Current stockpile of our country is 3,750. Basically, the stockpile means a production of something that has been kept for future. Our country signed a treaty, PTBT, Partial Test Ban Treaty. It is a treaty in which all the tests are done in the underground level, not in the atmosphere or not in the water level. Our country do all the tests are in the underground level.
Thank you so much, Delegate. Now we move on to the next country, and that is France. France, kindly present your views on the topic agenda.
We are in the favor of the motion, as France was the first state with United Kingdoms to sign and ratify the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, CTBT. It was the first state to have decided to close and dismantle its plants for production of fissile material for nuclear weapons. It was the only nuclear weapon state to have transparently dismantled its nuclear testing sites in the Pacific. It is the only state to have dismantled its nuclear ground-to-ground missiles. It is the only state to have voluntarily reduced its number of nuclear-powered missile submarines by a third. It has reduced its nuclear weapons and missiles and the aircraft in the airborne components by a third. In the NPT framework, France actively combats proliferation. It supports the 2015 Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, JCPOA, on the Iranian nuclear program. It voted to adopt the Nuclear National Security Council resolution enhancing international sensation. It participated in the Proliferation Security Initiative, PSI, created in 2003, which seek to strengthen international cooperation.
We affirm that a nuclear war cannot be won and must never be fought, as nuclear use would have far-reaching consequences. Affirm that nuclear weapons, for as long as they continue to exist, should serve defensive purposes, deter aggression, and prevent war. We believe strongly that the further spread of such weapons must be prevented. We underline our desire to work with all the states to create a security environment more conducive to progress, disarmament, with the ultimate goal of a world without nuclear weapons and with undiminished security for all. We intend to continue seeking bilateral and multilateral diplomatic approaches to avoid military confrontations, strengthen stability and predictability, increase mutual understanding and confidence, and prevent an arms race that would benefit none and endanger all. We are resolved to pursue constructive dialogue with mutual respect and acknowledgement of each other's security interests and concerns. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Delegate. Now we move on to China.
Thank you, Chairperson, for giving this opportunity. China has always supported the efforts by countries concerned to establish nuclear weapon-free zones through conciliation or voluntary basis, and is of the view that it is an effective way to prevent nuclear proliferation by establishing nuclear weapon-free zones. In handling affairs related to international arms control, disarmament and non-proliferation, the Chinese government always bases its policy making on the judgment whether it serves to safeguard national sovereignty and security, whether it serves to maintain global strategic stability, and whether it serves to promote security for all mutual trust among countries. China has always attached importance to and been supportive of international efforts in the arms control and disarmament fields. To oppose arms race and strive for disarmament has been an important part of China's foreign policy ever since the founding of People's Republic China. China has successfully joined and faithfully implemented relevant international arms control and disarmament treaties.
China believes that establishment of nuclear weapon-free zones is conducive to preventing proliferation of nuclear weapons and promoting regional and global peace and security. China supports and respects the establishment of nuclear weapon-free zones and WMD-free zones on the basis of voluntary consultation. China has unilaterally undertaken not to use or threaten to use nuclear weapons against non-nuclear weapon states and nuclear weapon-free zones. China has also unconditionally pledged to not to use or threaten to use weapons against non-nuclear weapon states. Since the first day when it came into possession of nuclear weapons, the Chinese government has solemnly declared that it would be not to first use such weapons at any time and at any circumstances. In 1973, China signed the Protocol 2 to the Treaty for the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons in Latin America and Caribbean, pledging neither to use or threaten to use nuclear weapons, and countries in the zone not to test, manufacture, produce, store, install, or deploy nuclear weapons, not to allow their delivery means with the nuclear weapons pass territorial sea and airspace. China believes that nuclear weapon states should respect the status of nuclear-free zones and assume corresponding obligations. Proceeding from the position, China has signed the ratified Protocol 2 of the Treaty for the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons and the Caribbean Protocol 2 and 3 of the South Pacific Nuclear Free Zone Treaty and Protocol 1 and 2 of African Nuclear Weapon Free Zone Treaty. China supports the efforts of Asian countries and have 5 Central Asian countries to establish nuclear weapon free zones and is ready to sign relevant protocols as early as possible after the countries concerned. We have reached the agreements on the text. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Delegate. Now we move on to the next country, and that is Pakistan. Kindly stand up and present your views.
Honorable Chairpersons, respected delegates, and the judges. General Assembly resolution defines a nuclear-free zone as any zone in which there is total absence of nuclear weapons and its manufacturing is prohibited. The Islamic Republic of Pakistan stated that countries participating in such a zone must not only pledge not to acquire or manufacture nuclear weapons, but also forbid the stationing of other countries' nuclear weapons in denuclearized zones. Honorable Chairpersons and delegates, Pakistan is a peacekeeping country, but still it is against the establishment of nuclear-free zones. Pakistan cannot give up nuclear weapons because in case if it has a conventional imbalance with India, then obviously its reliance on nuclear weapon increases. And for Pakistan, its national security is priority. Moreover, there is no such organization which ensures the security of countries in extreme situations. Countries like USA forces other countries to sign NPT and establish nuclear-free zones. It is all in order to establish their dominance over the world. But delegates, we will not let big powers of the world to let us suppress and rule on us. So it's time for us to get united and oppose the superpowers of the world.
Thank you so much, delegate.
Now let's move on to the next delegates of the UK.
As the agenda passes nuclear free zone, we are going to share UK nuclear energy scenario. Status of nuclear power in the UK. In 2020, in the year 2020, 16% of the UK electricity came from nuclear power plants. In 2019, nuclear supplied 17% of the country's electricity. The energy came from 13 nuclear reactors at 6 plants, though at any time some of these reactors are not operating because of the planned or unplanned shutdowns. The amount of the UK electricity that comes from the nuclear has declined since the 1990s. In the late 1990s, the nuclear power generated approximately 25% of the UK's electricity. Since the time, several plants have been permanently shut down and other need to be closed for maintenance more often because they are old. Government policy. The government policy has said that nuclear power is an important part of meeting its carbon reduction target. Delivering new and advanced nuclear power was the third of 10 points listed in the government's 10-point plan of Green Industrial Revolution, published in November 2020 and retired in the government's December 2020. Energy White Paper. The White Paper listed offshore wind nuclear power and hydrogen as key to decarbonizing the country's energy system. In 2020, 36% of the UK's electricity was generated using gas, down from 41% in 2019. In 2020, approximately 7% of the country's electricity was imported via interconnectors with the continent. How green is nuclear power? Like fossil fuels, nuclear fuels are non-renewable energy resources. But unlike fossil fuels, nuclear power stations do not produce greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide or methane. 1 kg nuclear fuel produces millions times more energy than 1 kg of coal.
The risk of nuclear conflict remains remote, but the threats the UK facing are increasing in scale, diversity and complexity. The UK has taken a consistent and leading approach on nuclear disarmament, but not all states have followed. Some are significantly increasing and diversifying their nuclear capabilities. We must ensure that they never use their nuclear weapons to threaten us, constrain our decision making, or sponsor nuclear terrorism. It may sometimes feel that these threats are far removed from our daily lives, but the UK must have the capability to protect itself and NATO allies. The deterrence plays a key role in keeping the public safe, and to abandon our nuclear deterrent would put us all at greater risk. Thank you.
Thank you, delegates. Let's now move on to our next delegate of India.
In the absence of global nuclear disarmament, India's strategic interests require effective, credible nuclear deterrence and adequate retaliatory capabilities should deterrence fail. This is consistent with UN Charter, which sanctions the right to self-defense. The requirements of deterrence should be carefully weighed in the design of Indian nuclear forces and in strategy to provide for a level of capability, survivability, effectiveness, safety, and security. India shall pursue a doctrine of credible minimum nuclear deterrence. In the policy of retaliation only, the survivability of our arsenal is critical. This is dynamic concept related to strategic environment, technological imperatives, and the need of national success.
The fundamental purpose of Indian nuclear weapons is to deter the use of and threat of use of nuclear weapons by any state or entity against India and its forces. India argued that a genuine nuclear weapon-free zone in the region required total absence of nuclear weapons. It felt that the existence of nuclear weapons in Asia-Pacific region and foreign military bases in the Indian Ocean complicated and security environment in the region and made the situation inappropriate for the establishment of a nuclear weapon-free zone in South Asia sub-region.
Thank you, delegates. The delegates of Germany are next.
Germany is a country that has experienced the highest of highs and the lowest of lows that a country can experience during both the world wars. We have yet experienced the country being divided by this Berlin Wall during the Cold War, and yet we stand fully committed to the goal of a world without nuclear weapons. We are convinced that the nuclear disarmament contributes essentially to our society and can best be reached on the basis of pragmatic step-by-step approach. Germany is actively and consistently supporting various efforts towards nuclear disarmament and non-proliferation. Germany is convinced that the NPT is and should remain the cornerstone of all efforts in nuclear non-proliferation and disarmament. We support the extension of the New START Treaty, which up to now has successfully implemented the nuclear arms reduction between US and Russia. Germany asks that all states that are not yet party should quickly sign and ratify the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty and join the international community resolve to end the nuclear testing. Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine has shown that credible deterrence and defense are necessary to safeguard our security in Europe. Another forum for exchange on this common goal is the meeting of states party to the Treaty of Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. Germany has decided to participate in it as an observer. We intend to continue dialogue with the states party to the TPNW on the question of how further progress on nuclear disarmament can be made in the current security environment. Foreign Minister Baerbock has stated the following at the event of launch of development of national security strategy in Berlin on 18th March. Nuclear disarmament cannot be done by making unilateral demands for our Western partners within the alliance. Genuine progress towards the disarmament can only be achieved when all nuclear weapon states take credible steps. Thank you.
Thank you, delegates. Spain is next.
Spain supports the retention and the potential use of nuclear weapons on its behalf, as indicated by its endorsement of various alliances statement of the Northern Alliances Treaty Organization, of which it is a member. Basically, Spain wanted to prevent the spread of a nuclear weapon and the weapon technology, to promote the cooperative in the peaceful uses of a nuclear energy, as its main goal is to achieve nuclear disarmament. NPT only recognizes P5 countries, that is USA, UK, France, China and Russia as nuclear weapon states, whereas India, Israel, Pakistan and North Korea are not signed of this treaty.
Till date, 191 UN states adhere to NPT and we support this treaty because, in our opinion, world should be free of nuclear weapons. Instead, using nuclear fusion energy in war, we can use it in a very beneficial way or in a very controlled way. It is a nuclear fission, which means this type of energy can help us to generate electricity. Still, today in France, we are using this type of energy for generating electricity. And according to past records, this nuclear reactor helps us to generate 21% of the electricity in our country.
Thank you, delegates, for your opinions. Let's start with the questionnaire round. There will be 2 questions instead of 3. And we'll start with a random order.
Delegates, kindly note that instead of 3 questions, now there will be only 2 questions. One from the opening speech and one from the main material of agenda. So kindly bring out your best questions which you can ask to the other country. Let's commence the order, beginning from France itself.
France would like to ask a question from Pakistan. And despite of the political and economic instability in Pakistan, still you are supporting the nuclear proliferation. That is why. I repeat, despite of the political and economic instability you are currently having, then why are you still supporting and investing more in the field of nuclear proliferation?
Delegates, you can take time to think about 10 to 15 seconds and then you have to answer the question. Yes, delegates, kindly commence with your answers.
Delegates of France, you have blamed us that we are spending too much money on creating nuclear weapons in spite of political and other instabilities in our country. So I would like to mention that if our country would not be protected and would not be secured from the outsiders and the invaders, so how can we will take care of the our country citizens and the people who are living in the country? So I would like to answer your question that how can we will protect the citizens of our country if we will spend if we will not spend money on nuclear weapons and for securing our borders. So if our internal security is not there, so how can we provide the people with the facilities?
Thank you, delegate. Now you can move to your next question. France, kindly begin.
Our next question is from the Russia. We want to ask that, as you have mentioned in your opening speech, that you have used the nuclear weapons in a positive side, but as in the current situation, as we can see that your attack on Ukraine is not as much as positive. So, can you tell us about the reason of your positive views of the nuclear weapons on Ukraine?
Delegates, kindly take around 10 seconds for the answer and then begin.
Hello. We aim to maintain global peace and we haven't used any nuclear weapon in Ukraine, not yet. So your question is not justified to us.
Thank you so much to the delegates of both the countries. Now we move on to our next country. The next country is China.
Our question is from India. India stated that they want amendment in articles of NPT, but in the previous review conference in 2015, the five nuclear weapon states has put an motion that the countries who haven't signed the NPT, what they want what they want in the articles, then India pretended to be not part of it. So what is the reason that you said you want amendment?
Delegates, kindly take 10 seconds for the answer and then speak. You need to make it quick, delegates.
As you asked that why we didn't sign the NPT and what are the amendments we want in NPT. I will tell you that, I am telling you that in 1995 and the age of NPT was about to end. But by the demand of China, it was increased indefinitely to unlimited years. But and India wants that India is prepared to sign the NPT if the disarmament amendments gets an integral part of the NPT.
Can I get point of clarification? India stated that with China ultimately extended the years of the treaty, but for the national safeguards of China, that India was testing nuclear tests in their countries like Pokhran. China was afraid that India will use against it, and it was stated by Atal Bihari Vajpayee then that if one country disturbs our internal assessments, then we will also tackle them. We will also tackle them as well.
China, I think that you have wrong understanding about the statement of Atal Bihari Vajpayee. Atal Bihari Vajpayee said in 2023, the doctrine of India was passed. But in that, it is clear written that India will only use after a nuclear attack on India, and India will also use if there is a great probability of a nuclear attack on India.
But that's the point of clarification, not point of information.
The next team that is on our list is Pakistan. Kindly come up with the questions.
Delegates of Spain, our question is from you. As NPT clearly specifies that states without nuclear weapons will not acquire them. Still being an important member of the NPT, you have stationed nuclear weapons of USA. And in 1966, the flight incident when hydrogen bomb was fallen on Spanish territory and the weapon was not free of risk for your population. So is this not the violation of NPT? How can you explain that? I repeat my question. As NPT clearly specifies that states without nuclear weapons will not acquire them. Still being an important member of the NPT, you have stationed nuclear weapons of USA. And 1966 flight incident when hydrogen bomb was fallen on Spanish territory and the weapon was not free of risk for your population. So isn't this the violation of NPT?
Delegates, you can think for about 10 seconds and then you'll have to answer the question. Delegates, you need to make it fast.
As it was a past incident, and in 1968 we have we have signed it institutional treaty to prevent the spread of a nuclear weapon and the weapon technology, to promote cooperation in peaceful uses of a nuclear energy, and to achieve nuclear disarmament is the main goal.
Thank you, Delegate. Next question, Pakistan. Delegate of China, our question is for you. Chinese leaders decided to acquire nuclear weapons to free their minds from the Maoist generation, which is called nuclear blackmail. So, a former director of China's nuclear weapons laboratories told that China developed them, so its leader could sit up with a straight spine. So, my question for you is that along with the compelling other nuclear weapons, states to negotiate their elements, what were the purpose Chinese nuclear weapons were meant to serve?
China formally presented a draft treaty on mutual no first use of nuclear weapons to United States of America, the Russian Federation, and United Kingdom, and also Pakistan. China had developed nuclear weapons because of their national security from North Korea after the Cold War, and from the United States, as it was a part of it was against the alliance of USA. So for the national security and for the internal assessment of the people of the People's Republic of China, China has to develop nuclear weapons, but it was up to a certain limit for the national safeguards, and it has not threatened any country of their nuclear weapons. Thank you.
Thank you so much, delegates, for the question and the answer to the same. Now we move on to United Kingdom for their questions. United Kingdom.
Our question is to Russia. Russia mentioned that peace is the main priority, but in the current scenario, Russia itself is the biggest threat to the global peace. Russian President Mr. Putin threatened the European nation that they can use nuclear weapons. So this is how you maintain global peace.
Russia has not clearly said that they will use nuclear weapons on. Which country did you say? Which country was it? EU? EU? Was it EU?
European nations that support Ukraine.
Okay. So we haven't used any nuclear weapon on them. We just gave them a warning, and we will only use it as a last option, only in the complicated situation, not now.
Can we add a point of clarification? Yes. But why do you mention yourself that peace is your priority? You are just threatening other small countries and terrorizing them. What's this nature of you around your own nation?
Which country did we threaten?
You, first of all the United Kingdom and other countries who were supporting Ukraine, you said that the threats will be given to them. So what's the reason? We are not we are supporting Ukraine, but you are threatening upon us only.
Well, you guys are not a small country, and we only gave you warning. We just didn't move to that part. Okay.
You also made a huge mistake as you threat us, and that backfires you because Mr. Putin said that.
Thank you, the delegates of both the countries, for the question and the answer. Now moving on to the next, it's country India.
My question is from UK. The UK government announced that in the past few years, the UK has committed to mid-2020s that UK will reduce their nuclear weapons to 160. But from 2020 to 2021, it has increased 40% of their arsenal of nuclear proliferation. Why UK is raising difficulty for the world as it is increasing its